Some people become uncomfortable when they can't explain your progress. They watch you change, recover, improve, and move differently. And instead of asking what you learned, they ask, "Who's helping you?" Funny question, because they assume nobody becomes stronger without someone secretly pulling the strings. They can't imagine that the person they've been underestimating could actually become the source of their own transformation. They remember the old version of you, the version that needed reassurance, the version that reacted too quickly, the version that questioned every decision because somebody else's opinion felt more important than your own. So when that version disappears, they start looking for an explanation. Who trained you? Who is behind you? Who gave you the confidence? They keep searching for someone standing beside you because they can't accept what's standing inside you. That's the part they missed. Every difficult year taught you something. Every betrayal sharpened your judgment. Every failure forced you to become more adaptable. Every lonely night taught you how to keep moving without applause. Every time someone walked away, you discovered that your ability to continue wasn't dependent on their presence. You became your own evidence, not perfect, not fearless, not magically protected from problems, just harder to break, because you've already survived enough to understand that discomfort doesn't automatically mean defeat. And now they see the results. You don't react like you used to. You don't chase everyone who walks away. You don't explain every decision. You don't need constant approval before taking the next step. Suddenly, people who thought they understood you are looking at you like there's some secret operation happening behind the scenes. There isn't. It's experience. It's decision you made when nobody was watching, that you weren't going to remain the person your circumstances created. They keep looking when the noteboard game help, because simply the one notice the transformation was the greatest transformation meeting, and you finally stop waiting for because we were waiting for the one, and we're the possibility ignore was winning lesson. Stop expecting permission. Stop blaming the past. And realize the person you've been searching for was much closer than they ever imagined, quietly building strength through every setback, every lesson, every uncomfortable decision, and every moment when you had nothing left except the choice to keep moving forward. People get uncomfortable when they can't explain your progress. It's almost funny. They watch you move differently, speak differently, think differently, and suddenly they need a theory. There must be someone behind you. Someone must be giving you advice. Someone must be opening doors. Someone must be secretly carrying you because the alternative is too uncomfortable to accept. Maybe you actually became stronger than they expected. They remember the old version of you. That's the problem. They built an entire picture of who you were based on your weakest moments. They remember when you were uncertain. They remember when you needed approval. They remember when you struggled to make decisions. They remember the times you failed, the times you were ignored, the times you didn't know what direction to take. So when you start changing, their old picture doesn't make sense anymore. Instead of updating the picture, they invent a story. Who's helping you? Who put you on? Who taught you all this? Who is behind you? They keep searching for a person because they can't see the process. They didn't see the mornings when you forced yourself to get up and keep moving. They didn't see the nights when you had to figure things out alone. They didn't see the mistakes you studied instead of repeating. They didn't see the moments when you had every reason to quit and still decided to take another step. They saw the result. You lived the process. That's a completely different thing. People love shortcuts because shortcuts make transformation easier to understand. If someone suddenly looks confident, they assume somebody gave them confidence. If someone becomes successful, they assume someone opened the door. If someone becomes disciplined, they assume they had some special mentor who handed them the formula. Maybe they did, but sometimes the answer is much simpler. Life. Failure trained them. Responsibility trained them. Silence trained them. Being underestimated trained them. And all those lessons eventually became something that looked like confidence from within you, the energy, different ways you need where your innerstrength came. You shouldn't be afraid from and therefore where the items came from. You know the price? You know what it costs to become more disciplined. You know which habits you had to destroy. You know how many times you had to rebuild your confidence after something knocked it down. The people asking questions don't necessarily need the truth. Sometimes they're trying to protect their explanation, because if they admit you built yourself through persistence, then they have to consider what might happen if they start to do that's uncomfortable. It's easier to believe you had secret help than to admit that consistent effort can transform an ordinary person. So let them wonder, let them search for the hidden mentor, let them imagine someone is pulling strings behind the curtain. You don't have to ruin their mystery, because the real answer is much less dramatic and much more for the mystery of the person helping you was built through every failure you survived, every lesson you remembered, every boundary you created, every promise you kept to yourself, and every morning you chose progress, when nobody was standing there to applaud, until the person they thought needed saving became the person capable of carrying himself through the very circumstances that once made him believe he couldn't move another step. They never saw the construction site. They only noticed the building. That's why your strength looks mysterious to them. They weren't there when everything was falling apart. They didn't watch you pick through the pieces of your confidence and decide which parts were worth rebuilding. They didn't see the nights when you had to encourage yourself because nobody else even knew you were struggling. They only see the version standing in front of them now, and that version doesn't match the person they remember. That's what silence does. It gives you room to rebuild without an audience. While everyone else was busy talking about what you couldn't do, you were learning how to do it. While they were counting your failures, you were studying them. While they were waiting for you to give up, you were figuring out why you kept falling into the same patterns and what needed to change. You didn't become stronger because life suddenly became kind. You became stronger because life stopped giving you easy answers. Every setback forced you to think differently. Every disappointment taught you that expectations can be dangerous when they aren't backed by reality. Every time someone betrayed your trust, you learned to pay closer attention to actions instead of promises. Every lonely season taught you that being alone isn't the same thing as being powerless, and slowly, something changed. You stopped needing someone to rescue you from every uncomfortable situation. You started solving problems. You started making decisions. You started accepting responsibility, learning from mistakes instead of viewing them as evidence. You limit that's how strength get them through weren't capability, not through some magical approximation, and through uncomfortable choice, through and look impressive on social media. Learned to keep moving even when motivation became alone. Lone visible as my they might be originally you. You learned that discipline is more reliable than emotion. You learned that confidence doesn't always arrive before action. Sometimes you have to act while you're still uncertain, and confidence follows afterward. That's a lesson many people never learn. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait for someone to encourage them. They wait for circumstances to become perfect. And while they're waiting, life keeps moving. You didn't wait. Maybe you were scared. Maybe there were moments when you genuinely didn't know what you were doing, but you kept learning. Every lesson, every failure became another conversation, became another brick. Every difficult conversation became another brick. It became every boundary, became another brick. Every time you chose yourself, because of yourself, without becoming selfish. Another brick every time you refused to let one bad chapter define the entire story. Another brick eventually. The person standing on that foundation doesn't who started building it. That's what people don't understand. They see confidence and assume arrogance, and assume you don't care. They assume you had it easy, discipline, and they see calmness and assume nothing ever hurt you. They see the finish underneath it, but you remember exactly what. That's why you don't need constant validation and remember. You remember that you accept validation of the same destroy you present for nothing anymore. You already have evidence. You've watched yourself survive things you once believed would destroy you. You've watched yourself recover. You've watched yourself adapt. You've watched yourself become more capable with every difficult season until the silence that once felt like abandonment became the space where you built the strength they now keep trying to explain, searching for some outside force when the real story was being written quietly by you through every setback, every lesson, and every decision to keep building when nobody else could see what you were becoming. There comes a moment when you realize nobody is coming to rescue you. And strangely enough, that's not the tragedy people imagine. It's freedom. Because as long as you're waiting for someone else to fix your life, you keep giving your power away. You wait for the perfect mentor, the perfect opportunity, the perfect relationship, the perfect moment when someone finally sees your potential and decides to pull you forward. And while you're waiting, you're still standing in the same place. That's the trap. People can spend years blaming the world for not giving them what they need. They blame their parents, their friends, their circumstances, their past, their luck, the economy, the people who betrayed them, the people who didn't believe in them. Maybe some of those things genuinely hurt. Maybe some of them were unfair. But there comes a point when understanding what happened has to become less important than deciding what happens next. You don't have to pretend the past didn't hurt. You just have to stop letting it write every future chapter. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing where your control begins. You may not control what someone did to you. You may not control who leaves. You may not control whether someone believes in you. You may not control the opportunities you missed, but you can control what you learn. You can control what you do next. You can control whether you keep repeating the same pattern, and that's where everything changes. Because responsibility feels heavy at first, but dependence is heavier. Waiting for someone else to give you confidence is exhausting. Waiting for someone else to validate your worth is exhausting. Waiting for permission to become who you want to become is exhausting. So you stop waiting, you start learning skills, you start protecting your attention, you start making decisions based on long-term consequences instead of temporary emotions. You start asking better questions, not what did they up with, I live not. What will they be living speaking? No one will become pretender for the door. Real independence means you cannot accept help by putting you with what they go about if you're independent than the board. We'll bring a point to them on one minute. You can appreciate guidance without surrendering your judgment. You can listen to advice without handing someone else the steering wheel. That's maturity. And once you develop that mindset, something strange happens. You become harder to manipulate. People can't threaten to leave and expect your entire world to collapse. They can't withhold approval and watch you beg for it. They can't make you feel worthless simply because they disagree with you. Their support becomes appreciated rather than required. That's the difference. You don't be anyone, you become powerful because you stop believing your life cannot move forward without someone else. You be pushing yourself. You begin trusting your ability to learn. You begin respecting your own decisions. You begin becoming the person you once hoped would arrive to save you. What we move joyful and save you. Realizing that the rescue you kept waiting for wasn't a stranger walking through the door, but the moment you finally decided to stand up, take responsibility for your direction, and become the person who could carry your future forward without waiting for permission from anyone who had already decided to underestimate you. Your old self was built for a different life, different fears, different problems, different people, different expectations. So stop being surprised when the person you used to be can't survive inside the life you're trying to build now. You don't need to hate that old version of yourself. You need to understand it, learn from it, and then stop allowing it to make decisions for you. The old you reacted quickly. The new you thinks first. The old you chased approval. The new you checks your own standards. The old you took every rejection personally. The new you understands not every closed growth and grand attack. That's growth, and growth can feel strained because you're breaking habits, because your brain can realize that once protected you. Maybe you used to stay quiet because speaking up created conflict. Maybe you used to say yes because you were afraid people would leave. Maybe you used to explain yourself constantly because you believed being misunderstood meant you had failed. But eventually you discover something uncomfortable. You cannot build a peaceful life while constantly behaving like you're trying to change the way else's opinion. You have to change the way you respond. That's to mean becoming heartless. It means becoming intentional. Someone insults you, and instead of immediately reacting, you pause. Someone criticizes you, and instead of automatically becoming defensive, you ask whether there's anything useful inside it. Someone walks away, and instead of chasing them down the street emotionally, you accept that their decision doesn't determine your worth. Someone misunderstands you, and instead of spending hours proving yourself, you recognize that some people have already chosen their interpretation. That's a different kind of strength. It's quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. The old version of you needed every situation to be resolved immediately. The new version understands that time reveals things that arguments never will. That's why discipline matters so much. Discipline isn't just waking up early or working hard. It's emotional discipline. It's the ability to choose your response instead of becoming a prisoner of your first reaction. Anyone can become angry. Anyone can send the message they regret. Anyone can burn a bridge because their ego got her. The harder the thing is staying composed, or your emotions are demanding a poor performance. And the more you practice that restraint, the more your identity changes. You start realizing that you don't have to attend every argument. You don't have to answer every accusation. You don't have to prove every point. You don't have to chase every person. You don't have to shrink yourself just because someone feels threatened by your confidence. You don't have to, your confidence. You don't have to return to the outcome. Within effective security and see substance of come up with from discipline instead of impulse, and from self-respect instead of the desperate need to be accepted by people who only recognized your value when you were still small enough to fit inside the version of you they had already decided they understood. The funny thing about strength is that people keep looking for the source in the wrong place. They see you standing differently, speaking with more confidence, making decisions without asking everyone for approval, and they assume someone must have given you that strength. Maybe there's a powerful person behind you. Maybe someone opened a secret door. Maybe somebody important decided to take you under their wing. They keep searching outside because they don't understand what happened inside. You didn't become stronger because someone handed you a new identity. You became stronger because you stopped abandoning yourself. That's the word nobody sees. There were moments when you could have become bitter, but you chose to learn. There were moments when you could have stayed down, but you stood back up. There were moments when you could have allowed rejection to define you, but you decided one person's opinion wasn't going to become your entire identity. Every one of those choices changed you. Not dramatically, quietly, one decision at a time. You learned that confidence isn't something someone can give you permanently. Someone can encourage you. Someone can believe in you. Someone can offer advice. But eventually you have to create your own evidence. You have to keep promises to yourself. You have to prove through your actions that you can trust yourself when circumstances become uncomfortable. That's where real confidence comes from. Remember the problems you solved, the situations you survived, the mistakes you created, the boundaries you changed, the boundaries you created, the motive to quit them. It's when you wanted it and kept going anyway. History becomes a kind of a plan or internal proof. And when is your internal proof? What will you want from my when your levels you saw the proof? You don't need to argue with every person who doubts you. You simply continue. That's why outside approval becomes can appreciate support without depending on it. You can accept advice without surrendering your judgment. You can listen to criticism without allowing people right identity. You can allow it to rewrite it every decision you make. That's freedom, and freedom makes to controllable when they're used to controlling you through approval if they praise you. That's with me if praise you. You don't become arrogant if they criticize you. You don't collapse if they leave. You don't lose yourself if they stay. You appreciate them. Your emotional center stops moving every time someone else changes their opinion. That's what they keep missing. They're looking for the person helping you because they can't accept that you've learned how to help yourself. Not perfectly, not every day, not without mistakes, but the benefit to keep moving. No, recover, not falling in your choices like going away, before it was made there, go this law, and plan repent anybody, but it's going to be here from so start, more of a bad way, we know, following way slow, so plan no, all the people come me for the people can keep asking who is helping you. They can search for the hidden person. They can create their theories. They can stare at the results and wonder where the transformation came from. But the answer isn't complicated. The person helping you is the person you became through every lesson, every failure, every recovery, every uncomfortable decision, and every moment when you chose not to give up on yourself, until the strength they keep searching for outside you became something you carried within you so naturally that you stopped noticing it was there.